Welcome to Forbidden Texts. What you are about to see may shock you. It may surprise you, but will definitely challenge everything you thought you knew. Stick around until the end to discover the forbidden knowledge that they don't want you to have.
You wake up and something's off. Reality feels thin. Like the world around you is still happening, but you're not really in it anymore. You stare at your hands, your face in the mirror, your friends talking, and suddenly none of it makes sense. It's not depression. It's not burnout. You're not broken. You're changing. Welcome to Forbidden Texts, where we explore ancient knowledge and forgotten wisdom. What if everything you thought was you was just a costume you've been wearing your whole life? But it might be something deeper, the beginning of a spiritual awakening. Psychologists have a term for it: ego dissolution. When the mental scaffolding that held your identity together starts breaking down, it doesn't just feel strange. It feels like death. Not the dramatic kind, but the slow, disorienting kind where you're alive, but none of your thoughts feel like your own anymore. You might wake up and feel like an actor who forgot their lines. You're doing the motions, eating, working, smiling, but inside, you're blank. And this emptiness isn't numbness. It's more like a hollow hallway where your old self used to live. That's the identity meltdown. And it's terrifying, but also necessary. In Tibetan Buddhism, they call it the bardo, the in-between. In psychology, Carl Jung called it the night sea journey, a place where the ego dissolves so the self can emerge. But before that happens, you might start questioning everything: your job, your marriage, your beliefs, your past. Nothing feels safe. Not even your own mind. Most people panic here. They fight to reassemble the mask, to glue the fragments back together. But that only delays what's trying to happen. And what's trying to happen is real evolution. This phase breaks people. But for those who stay with it, something wild begins to unfold. Memories resurface. Patterns become visible. You start to realize how much of your identity was based on fear, approval, survival. And once that veil lifts, it doesn't go back. Ever. But the fallout, that's where it gets weird. Because once your inner world starts collapsing, your outer world does too. Relationships shift. Priorities flip. Your old life starts to reject you. Or maybe you're just waking up to the fact it never really fit in the first place. And this is just the beginning. The real trip starts when your senses stop playing by the rules. When we come back, we're diving headfirst into the next glitch. Why your ears, your skin, your whole nervous system suddenly feels like it's on max sensitivity mode. Keep going. Everything starts to make sense soon. You walk into a grocery store and suddenly the hum of the fluorescent lights feels like it's drilling into your skull. Someone nearby coughs and it echoes like a gunshot. The music overhead, some generic pop song, is unbearable, like it's invading your bones. You're not sick. You're not going crazy. Your senses have gone rogue. Welcome to sensory overdrive. One of the most disorienting signs that something inside you is upgrading, or unraveling, or both. Your body, once numb to the background noise of modern life, is now alert, hyper alert. Lights too bright, crowds overwhelming, screens unbearable, people draining. Every little thing you used to tune out suddenly hits like a wave. And it's not subtle. It's visceral. You might feel itchy, jumpy, even nauseous in places you used to feel fine. The mall, the subway, your own living room. Psychologists would call this heightened sensory processing sensitivity. It overlaps with traits seen in HSPs, highly sensitive persons, but in the context of a spiritual awakening, it's more like your nervous system is recalibrating itself, shedding layers of psychic armor. And in that rawness, your real sensitivity comes online. In ancient traditions, this was a sign of initiation. The veil thinning, a phase where the body becomes a tuning fork, resonating with things you never noticed before. Energies, emotions, unspoken tensions in a room. It's as if your skin isn't just skin anymore, it's an antenna. And the signals, they're relentless. Science backs it, too. Studies show that during meditative or altered states, the brain's default mode network, responsible for ego and self-referencing, goes quiet. And what lights up instead? Sensory processing regions. In other words, when the me turns down, the world turns up. But no one tells you that awakening means having to leave concerts early, or needing noise, canceling headphones just to survive a cafe, or why the sound of a leaf blower makes you want to punch God. You start to avoid places you once loved. You find peace in silence, in shadows, in solitude. It's not anti-social. It's survival. Because when you feel everything, the world becomes too much. And here's the mind bender. This isn't a malfunction. It's a refinement. You're becoming more precise, more perceptive. Your body is no longer tolerating what's out of tune. And that's not weakness. That's intelligence. But what happens when time itself stops behaving normally? When days melt into each other and you're not even sure what year it is anymore? When we come back, we're going deeper into the timeline glitch, where linear reality breaks down and your concept of time, totally unreliable. Keep going. You're getting closer. You check the time and swear only 5 minutes have passed. But it's been 2 hours. Or maybe 2 days. You're not sure anymore. Time stretches, compresses, loops. You wake up feeling like a different person. You blink and the week is gone. You lose words mid-sentence. People ask, "What day is it?" And you laugh like it's a joke, because it kind of is. Welcome to the time warp, where the rules of linear time start to dissolve and your brain stops pretending everything's normal. Psychologists call this temporal disintegration. It's common in trauma states, psychedelic trips, and yes, spiritual awakening. Because when the ego softens, the tight grip on time collapses too. The mind no longer anchors itself to clocks and calendars. It's not that time stops existing. It's that your perception of it does. In altered states, whether induced by meditation, crisis, or spontaneous awakening, your brain enters what neuroscientists call flow state or non-ordinary awareness. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for executive function and timekeeping, goes offline. And what replaces it is presence. A disorienting, intoxicating kind of presence that feels less like living and more like being lived through. In ancient shamanic cultures, this was known. Time wasn't fixed. It was elastic, cyclical, dreamlike. The Hopi didn't even have words for past, present, or future. Because when you tune in deeply enough, the illusion of time as a straight line collapses into something else entirely, something fractal, something alive. And here's where it gets weird. You'll start noticing repeating numbers. 11, 11, 2, 22. Time itself seems to wink at you, like it's in on the joke. And maybe it is. You might forget appointments, lose track of conversations, stand in one room trying to remember why you walked in. And not because you're distracted, but because your mind is no longer operating in a linear format. You've gone off grid. The world still expects you to show up like it's Monday at 9 a.m. But inside, you're floating in deep time. Mythic time. And it's confusing. Beautiful. Terrifying. You start sensing that some moments are heavier than others. That some minutes last an hour. That time bends around emotion, around energy, around you. You realize that time isn't something outside you. It's something you're generating. And when that realization clicks, so does the existential panic. Because if time isn't real, what else isn't? When we come back, we're peeling back the next layer, the terrifying moment where nothing feels real, nothing makes sense, and the ground beneath your feet starts dissolving. This is the abyss. And yeah, it's necessary. Keep going. The pieces are starting to connect. You're sitting in your car, parked, engine off. You know where you are. You know your name. But none of it feels real. The steering wheel, your hands, your memories, like props on a stage. Like you've somehow stepped outside the simulation, and now you're watching life happen from behind glass. Detached. Numb. Quietly horrified. This is existential panic. The moment your awakening goes full throttle, and everything you believed was solid suddenly isn't. It starts subtle. Maybe you question your job, your relationships, your purpose. But then it snowballs. The questions get bigger. Who am I? Why am I here? What the hell is this? And before you know it, you're in full ontological freefall. No answers. No ground. Just the creeping sense that reality might be a hallucination you no longer want to maintain. Psychologists call this depersonalization or derealization. It's common in trauma, anxiety, and psychedelic experiences. But here's the twist. They also show up during spontaneous spiritual awakenings. When the old reality matrix begins to crumble, and your consciousness starts to decouple from the ego that built it. This isn't just some mental glitch. It's a sign that the part of you that used to believe the story is losing its grip. You're seeing through the script. Not just your own, but the collective one. The rules of society, the expectations of identity, the whole illusion of permanence. In mystical traditions, this is known as the dark night of the soul. Saint John of the Cross described it as a divine abandonment, where God vanishes, and all you're left with is silence. In Buddhism, it's the realization of sunyata, emptiness. The truth that nothing has inherent existence. That everything is impermanent, interdependent, and ultimately, not what it seems. And in that space, you might feel like you're losing your mind. But what you're actually losing is the false center. The artificial scaffolding that held up your world. And when that falls, it's not just uncomfortable, it's ego death. People around you won't get it. They'll say you need sleep, therapy, a vacation. And maybe you do. But what you really need is to surrender to the not knowing, to the void. Because hidden in that void is the doorway to something massive, authenticity. Still, the price is steep. You might isolate, panic, cry for no reason, wake up with a heavy chest, wondering if you're dying or just disappearing. But the truth is, you're being emptied. Emptied of illusion, of distraction, of everything that isn't you. But once you're emptied, you're open. And that's when something new begins to enter. Before that happens, though, before rebirth, there's a strange silence, a loneliness, a distance from everything you used to love. When we come back, we'll go straight into that quiet fallout, the isolation, the disconnection, and why, even when surrounded by people, you feel like a ghost moving through the world. Keep going. There's a reason for all of this. You're in a room full of people, but it's like you're behind glass. They're laughing, scrolling, drinking, living, and you're just observing, nodding, smiling. But inside, you're miles away. Not better than them. Not separate. Just different now. This is the isolation effect. And it hits hard. Not because you're antisocial, but because something deep inside you has shifted and no one around you speaks the language anymore. It's not just about solitude. It's a specific kind of loneliness, the kind where your old life no longer fits, but your new one hasn't formed yet. Like standing in a hallway with all the doors closed. You don't hate your friends. You just can't fake the small talk anymore. You try, but the words taste hollow. Everyone seems plugged into something you're no longer part of. Group chats, gossip, goals you no longer care about. Psychologically, this phase resembles what developmental theorists call liminal space, the threshold between one identity and another. In Jungian terms, you've stepped into the archetype of the hermit. Withdrawal isn't failure, it's transformation.
A quick message. This space has become something truly special for many of us. A community of people on a shared journey of spiritual growth, healing, and awakening. Your comments and stories inspire me every day, and it's clear there's so much more we can create together, especially since this path can feel lonely at times. That's why we've created a spiritual space on Patreon, a sanctuary for deeper connection, exclusive content, and meaningful conversations with others from this channel who share your journey. Together, we can build something uplifting, authentic, and spiritually powerful. If this resonates with you and you'd like to be part of something bigger, whatever you're going through, you'll find the link in the description or pinned in the comments. Your membership not only helps support the channel, but also helps grow this beautiful community. Let's create something amazing together.
The system is reconfiguring, and you need silence to hear the signal underneath the noise. Neurologically, you're also becoming more attuned to emotional energy. Studies in mirror neurons, those little brain cells that reflect the emotions of others, show how sensitive we are to the unconscious vibes of people around us. During awakening, this mirror system can go into overdrive. You start picking up micro expressions, tension, even buried emotions. Being in crowded spaces feels like tuning into 10 radio stations at once, and none of them are playing music you like. So you retreat. You cancel plans. You start walking alone, eating alone, sitting in your car just to feel yourself again. And that solitude, it starts to become sacred. You're no longer avoiding people out of fear. You're preserving your energy out of instinct. But it hurts. Watching relationships fade. Feeling unseen. Trying to explain what you're going through and getting blank stares. Or worse, pity. They don't understand why you're quieter, more intense, less fun. They miss the old you. And maybe you do too. But here's the thing. The old you is constructed to survive in a world that doesn't exist anymore. Not for you. You're building a new foundation. One that's rooted in presence, not performance. Still, the loneliness cuts deep. You might cry at night, miss people who never really saw you, scroll through old photos and feel like you're looking at a stranger. That grief is real, but it's also clearing space because something new is coming, and your body knows it. That's why it's been acting up. That's why your sleep is broken, your appetite is weird, your chest flutters for no reason. Next, we're diving into the freaky physical symptoms no one talks about. The headaches, the energy rushes, the sudden heat. It's not in your head. It's in your nervous system. Keep going. Your body's been trying to tell you something. 1 minute you're fine. The next, your skin's buzzing, your heart's racing, and it feels like lightning is crawling up your spine. No warning. No cause. Just a sudden jolt of something you can't explain. You check your pulse. You Google symptoms. You wonder if it's a panic attack or if you're dying. This is what happens when your body starts freaking out during an awakening. Random aches. Migraines out of nowhere. Joint pain. Insomnia. Twitching muscles. Strange electrical sensations. Heat rushing through your chest or hands. A deep internal vibration you can't shake. And the weirdest part, medical tests come back fine. No diagnosis. No answers. Just shrugs. But here's what might be happening beneath the surface. Your nervous system is going through a software update, and your hardware isn't quite keeping up. From a psychological lens, intense transformation triggers the autonomic nervous system, the same system responsible for fight or flight. Even without external danger, the internal pressure of change can activate survival mode. You're not imagining it. Your body is reacting to a perceived existential threat, the death of the old self. But on the mystical side, traditions across the world speak of this too. In Kundalini Yoga, it's called a Kundalini awakening, when dormant energy at the base of the spine uncoils and begins rising. Practitioners describe heat, vibrations, spontaneous movements, even temporary illness. Sound familiar? Western medicine would call this psychosomatic. But that doesn't mean fake. It means your psyche, your inner world, is impacting your biology in real time. And during awakening, that impact is massive. Your body is trying to process the emotional backlog you've ignored for years. Every suppressed memory, every locked jaw, every tightened gut, it's surfacing. Sometimes as tears, sometimes as illness, sometimes as overwhelming physical weirdness you can't even name. You might find yourself waking at 3 a.m. every night, feeling pressure at the top of your head, experiencing random bursts of euphoria or crushing fatigue, appetite all over the place. One day you crave fruit, the next you can't even look at food. It's not a diet issue. It's a frequency issue. Your system is adjusting to a new internal rhythm, and until it stabilizes, you'll feel off balance. But the worst part, trying to explain it to someone who hasn't felt it. They think you're overreacting, being dramatic, making it up. So you stop talking. You suffer in silence. Or worse, you start doubting yourself. Don't. You're not crazy. You're not alone. And your body isn't broken. It's communicating. It's releasing, rewiring, preparing. And just when you think you can't handle another unexplained symptom, something impossible starts happening. You begin seeing signs. Coincidences that feel scripted. Numbers repeating. Dreams that come true. Thoughts that manifest. And you ask yourself, is this real life, or am I in some kind of cosmic joke? Next, we're diving into the ultimate mind glitch, synchronicities. When reality starts winking at you, and the simulation shows its seams. Keep going. You're almost through the storm. You think of someone you haven't seen in years, and they text you. You look at the clock and it's 11. 11 again. A lyric on the radio answers the exact question you were just asking in your head. It keeps happening. Over and over. So much that it stops feeling random. This is the synchronicity glitch. When the fabric of reality starts behaving like it knows you're watching. At first, you brush it off. Coincidence. Pattern recognition. Whatever. But then the patterns stack. You think of a word, and someone says it. You dream something, and it happens. You write something down, and later find it in a book you've never read. You start to feel like reality is choreographing itself around you. Carl Jung coined the term synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence with no causal link. Not just random chance, but something else. A collision between the inner world and the outer, between thought and form, between you and whatever's behind the curtain. Psychologically, it's linked to what's called apophenia, the brain's tendency to find patterns in noise. But when it happens at this frequency, this precision, it's more than neurons firing. It feels scripted. It feels intentional. Here's the paradox. The more you notice it, the more it happens. As if attention itself amplifies it. Like reality is responding to you noticing reality. In spiritual terms, this is often described as the veil thinning. You've stepped into a different layer of perception, one where cause and effect don't play by old rules. Time doesn't work the same. Thought carries weight, and your inner frequency starts attracting external reflections. But there's a flip side. It can drive you insane. When every song feels like a message, every number looks like a code, every interaction seems laced with hidden meaning. You start questioning everything. Am I manifesting this? Am I being watched? Is this a glitch? That's the trap. The ego loves grabbing onto magic, making it about control, about specialness. But synchronicity isn't about you being chosen. It's about you being aligned. You're not being rewarded, you're being reflected. And here's what the patterns are actually showing you. You're not separate. The boundary between you and the world is thinner than you were taught. Your thoughts ripple outward. Your energy broadcasts. And reality, this vast interactive mirror, responds. It's thrilling. It's confusing. It's sacred. And once it starts, it doesn't stop. But here's the deeper truth no one tells you. All of these symptoms, the isolation, the time distortion, the sensory overload, they aren't random. They're part of a process. A breakdown that leads to breakthrough. And if you've made it this far, something big is unfolding. Because what feels like falling apart is actually initiation. In the final part, we're pulling it all together. Why these symptoms happen, what they're trying to awaken in you, and how to stop surviving it and start integrating it. This is where everything changes. You thought you were breaking. You weren't. You were breaking open. Everything you've been feeling, the identity crisis, the time loops, the body glitches, the loneliness, the signs. It's not chaos. It's not coincidence. It's a system reboot. Your system, your soul, your mind, body, and perception recalibrating to a new frequency. And yeah, it hurts. Awakening isn't poetic. It's violent. It rips through everything false to make space for something real. But real doesn't always feel safe. It feels raw, exposed, uncomfortable. The numb autopilot you used to live on is gone. And what's left is something terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Presence. Not the Instagram kind. The kind that forces you to feel again. Everything. The grief. The wonder. The pain. The awe. And here's the truth. Most people will never go through this. Not because they can't, but because they won't. Because it's easier to stay asleep than it is to let the dream collapse. But if you're here, listening, resonating, you didn't choose easy. Something in you chose real, even if you didn't mean to. Psychologists call this spiritual emergence when it goes well, and spiritual emergency when it doesn't. The only difference is support. Without context, without language, these symptoms feel like madness. But once you realize what's happening, they start to feel like messages, initiations, thresholds. And when you integrate them, not avoid, not escape, but face them, you begin to change. You stop outsourcing your power. You stop pretending. You stop apologizing for being sensitive, deep, intense, strange. You stop seeking permission to be what you already are. Awake. Not enlightened. Not perfect. Not blissed out and floating above reality. Just awake. Present. Honest. Real. You won't go back to how things were. That's not the point. The point is evolution. Not up, but in. The weird symptoms, the psychological chaos, the mystical glitches, they're not detours. They are the path. You're not broken. You're just in the middle of remembering. So when you ask, WTF is happening to me, this is what's happening. You're waking up. And waking up isn't a vibe. It's a reckoning. It doesn't hand you peace on a crystal platter. It drags you through your shadows. It makes you question everything you thought you needed. The job, the validation, the version of yourself you spent years performing. It strips it all down until you're left with just you. The real you. The one that doesn't care if they're liked. The one that remembers. You start feeling the world differently. Not just reacting, but sensing. Seeing through people's words. Feeling their energy before they open their mouth. You no longer chase what drains you. Your nervous system just won't allow it. You get quieter, but your presence, loud as hell. And yeah, it's lonely. But that loneliness becomes sacred. You realize solitude isn't emptiness. It's space. Space to hear your own frequency again. To remember what joy actually feels like without numbing or forcing or earning it. Eventually, the symptoms soften. The rush is calm. The insomnia fades. You stop bracing for the next wave and start riding it. You laugh more. Not the old way, performative, exhausted. The new way, grounded, free. And slowly, people start showing up in your life who see you. Not the role you played. You. They've been through it too. You speak in code. You recognize each other by the way you hold silence. You're not alone anymore. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about peeling back everything you're not. The weird symptoms, they were the fire that burned away the illusion. The fear, the guilt, the false stories. And what's left is simple. You. Awake. Unfiltered. Unapologetic. So if you're still asking WTF is happening to me, now you know. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. And this is just the beginning.